Hopefully I was going to get a woman to make a good comment. Hopefully.
I'm from outer space. I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gone, I've been far away. I'm illuminated, I'll make a move, start the waves. I've been dreaming around flying for a long time. I had a vision from the birds, they want a goal sign. Artificially.
How's everybody doing? Positive and productive, I hope. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with me. Hey, do me a favor and share this content with friends, family, anybody you believe the content is relevant to. Remember, local elections are more important than national elections, but dollars are stronger than votes. They won't stop until we stop them. Liberation comes at a cost. Who's willing to pay for it? So just really quickly, ladies and gentlemen, I was actually getting prepared for some other segments and getting some information together. And I was scrolling through Facebook, like I said, to get some media and some stuff available. And I saw this post and I actually just, I just honestly just skimmed past it. It really didn't make much to me. But it says food stamps banning soda and junk is a win. And I actually agree with the sentiment of that, and well, here's the thing. I believe that if you don't have the right resources for food and necessities, maybe you should get some help with those and not just the help monetarily, but also the help with ideas and concepts behind it. Maybe you don't agree with that, but I do agree with it. Besides, I don't believe people should just be eating a lot of junk food either. That's just my opinion and my take. But what's really interesting was the comment section. Generally speaking, ladies and gentlemen, whenever there's a post, the comment sections are usually what attracts us, right? So let's go through these comments. So actually, the most prolific post on here with 7.9 thousand reactions from Jar J. She said nobody should have their food regulated because you're getting assistance. Many people work that get SNAP and their tax dollars are going their tax dollars are going right in the pot along with everyone else. Also, schools requesting kids bring snacks sometimes, and that helps parents allow their children to take part in bringing snacks. Not everyone buys all junk. Whoever thinks that it should be regulated, go regulate your own crap. So I really don't know what she was honestly talking about. Honestly, she just started lumping a few different things all together in these for instances. But I told you, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to read the comment section. So and we're going to look at the dichotomy between men and women. So Antonio, he says now, if only they gave child support directly to the child somehow. I don't believe that's a good thing. Excuse me. I do understand his sentiment that they're not giving it directly to the woman. But would I rather give money to an adult? Maybe she's bitter. Maybe she's, doesn't make the best decisions. Or would I rather give money to a child who's not disciplined and who doesn't really know too much about anything? I would actually take my choices with the bitter woman. I just would. What about children birthdays and holidays or a treat simply for making grades or making them feel special? They can limit junk food, but they shouldn't take it away. Dang, they can't have chips because they're on assistance. No junk, I'll bite. Define junk. Cereal to me is complete junk. Now we're letting okay, here we go. Let's read this. Whoa, Jesus Christ. I didn't know I was going to read all this. Okay. Katrina Kaskova. Okay. No junk. Okay. I'll bite. Define junk. Cereal to me is complete junk. We not letting people get cereal for kids. White bread is junk as well. See the problem? More than half the stuff in stores is junk. Food stamps are meant to keep people fed, not necessarily healthy. More importantly, junk food is more affordable and keeps people fed longer and allows them to stretch their dollar. As long as healthy food is more expensive than so-called junk, you can't morally ask people who have limited funds for food to only buy the healthy stuff. Look, I don't think people should buy soda either. However, I don't get to dictate what other people eat or drink. There are already restrictions. Food stamps are meant to help, and that could look there's no punctuation, there's no commas, no nothing. Food stamps are meant to help And that could look different for different families. It's not perfect, but you won't make it perfect by telling people what they can or can't eat. I'm actually going to respond to that one right there for a few different reasons, right? Define junk. So I like what she did. She said cereal to me is junk. White bread is junk. We could say bread is junk. However, I'm going to argue from a nutrient dense perspective. Does bread provide more caloric properties than it doesn't? Is it empty calories? Does bread have nutritional value over it not having nutritional value? And the same thing I'll say with cereal, right? Actually, cereal is really healthy for you. Now, I don't agree with all of the food dyes, processed sugars, artificial sweeteners, artificial flavors, and different things that they add into cereal that makes it somewhat bad for you. However, when we're looking at nutrient dense solutions, cereal provides all of the necessary amino acids, necessary minerals, and key vitamins that are necessary and essential for the building blocks. So I don't agree with the sugar, especially the processed sugar. However, cereal is far more healthy than a lot of other stuff, and cereal wouldn't be. So if you said compare a cereal to a Snickers, compare the most unhealthy cereal to just your average candy bar, and by far cereal is going to be way more nutrient dense. It's almost not even a comparison. It's honestly not. More importantly, junk food is more affordable and keeps people fed longer and allows them to stretch their dollar. You know what? I don't believe that. And I hear this common misconception all the time, and we're actually going to have to pull it up and do it. And it'll probably be another segment where we do an in-depth analysis, so it's not just at face value, right? But I hear this all the time where people say it's more affordable to eat junk food than it is to eat healthy. And honestly, I don't believe that. Now, yes, if you want to eat organic and the creme of the creme or the top stuff of the organic or the healthy choices, then yes, that could get costly or expensive. But if we're just saying eating fruits and vegetables over eating processed food, I honestly believe fruits and vegetables are a lot cheaper. Now, don't get me wrong, the price of vegetables, food, produce, and different things are going up. I do know that. However, if you're going to just say, if you're going to just say eating fruits and vegetables compared to eating stuff that is processed or not nutrient dense, yes, fresh fruits and vegetables will be more expensive than canned fruits and vegetables. But are you going to say canned fruits and vegetables are not healthier compared to a fruit snack, are not healthier compared to Skittles, are not healthier compared to candy? I think that's asinine to make that false equivalence. Another thing that she said right here, right? And she said that she don't think people should be allowed to buy soda, but she said, I don't get to dictate what other people eat or drink. Actually, you do. So in a few different capacities. So number one, if I'm a parent, right? Or an adult who cares for children, whether I'm their parent or not. But if I'm an adult and a primary caregiver, I'm more than likely going to tell a 5-year-old what they can and can't eat. And I'm more than likely going to tell a 5-year-old what they need to or what they should eat. Correct? Okay, moving forward, negating the fact that I'm a parent or a caretaker, the fact that SNAP, food stamps, benefits and all that, it primarily comes from the community as from the form of tax dollars. So I think if you're going to take my tax dollars, I should have a say in the program, who's eligible for the program, and the criterion therein of the program. I just do. It's my money. So why don't I get to have a say in my money? I don't want to jump off into the weeds here, but it's just like all of our tax dollars went to go fund a Ukrainian war that I never even voted for. So whether or not the Ukrainians should have Javelin missiles is neither here nor there. I didn't even vote to say if my money should go to the Ukrainians or not. And when we talk about having autonomy with our body and we're free to choose to make the choice of our bodies, we already know what happened a few years ago when we were forced to get jabs and get experimental vaccines in order to keep our job, in order to go to funerals, in order to to do certain things in society. So a lot of times autonomy goes out the window, ladies and gentlemen. And a lot of times we are subjected to that. Oh, the government shouldn't tell me what I get to do with their body. Okay, take COVID or take the jab out of it, right? Let's just say you want to shoot up heroin. The government is going to tell you, no, you can't shoot up heroin because that's not good. Imagine if I wanted to cut off my arm. Now, there's nothing wrong with my arm. I just think I would look better without having an arm, so I want to cut my arm off. You guys would think I was crazy if I said that, but yet we live in a society where I tell you that there's nothing wrong with my penis. I just think that I don't agree with me having a penis, and I think I identify with not having a penis, and maybe I look better. And yet medical professionals, and I'll use that term loosely, medical professionals will allow me to cut off my penis, but yet in the same breath, they will not allow me to cut off my arm. So I think in a lot of instances in society, in modernity standpoint, we do tell people what they can do with their body. We do tell people what they can and cannot eat. If I was an athlete, if I was in the NBA, if I was in the UFC, they would tell me certain things or certain substances or chemicals that I cannot take or that are banned substances. If I was an Olympic athlete, they would tell me there maybe not food, but certain training, performance enhancement supplements and different things of that nature. So they would tell me what I can and cannot intake into my body. But let's continue. It's not a win when organic is 2 to 3 times more expensive. You know what? I'm not even going to read the whole thing right there. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, you see the comments that come from women, right? So in order to eat healthy, do I have to eat organic, or do I just not eat Skittles and then just eat fruit, right? So why is it that we have to go to an extreme measure? So eating healthy means that I have to eat organic. No, organic is for the health nuts, the people who want the best of the health. But we're just talking about people who don't eat fruits and vegetables, people who don't work out, people who don't do the necessary things. And now we're saying to incorporate the necessary things, right? So let's just say if you don't work out, I'm not saying you have to go to Gold's Gym or to the most expensive gym. But what I am saying is that 3 to 4 times a week, you could walk maybe a mile or 2, right? So no, you don't have to go buy the most expensive gym membership in order to get some healthy cardiovascular benefits from doing the said activity. So when I say eat healthy, I just meant, stop eating the non-healthy things and start eating healthy things. I didn't mean you have to go buy the most expensive healthy thing. We didn't mean that when we said that, but I'm sorry you interpreted it that way. We'll continue. If you think the type of food is the problem, you have never actually lived in poverty. Okay, so again, are we talking about people in poverty, or are we just talking about people who need assistance? Because people who are impoverished people, they're impoverished for a few different reasons. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. The other comment was talking about people who work and receive SNAP benefits. So now are we talking about impoverished people? Because impoverished people do not work, ladies and gentlemen. We're conflating 2 different things. Now we're calling people who work poverty. That is not impoverished. Yes, there is a working poor. You can be poor and not in poverty. Those are 2 different terms, ladies and gentlemen. We used to have a poor class of society. There was even a term called the working poor. Then we had a middle class society, and we had a lower middle class, and we had an upper middle class, and then we had affluence. We had lower affluent. We had higher affluence. And then we had people who we would consider rich, and then we had people who are wealthy. So there are always levels to this different stuff, ladies and gentlemen. But yes, if you are in poverty, you know what? Getting food is probably the least of your problems. Maybe getting yourself out of poverty should probably be the main consideration. And yes, I understand that you have to eat, but if you're going to eat and not make good decisions and make the same decisions that will be there for you tomorrow and the day after and the day after and the day after, well, eating doesn't do you any good because you're still going to be in the same situation. The food fake anyway, so you really buying junk food now. So again, ladies and gentlemen, look at the comments that mainly come from women. Now, yes, and I will agree with a lot of the food is not real in the sense of they're putting a lot of different things in the food, but that doesn't mean that all the food is fake, and that doesn't mean that there are not any healthy options out there, and that doesn't have anything to do with our tax dollars being given to people. Did you guys see the segment where the lady was using food stamps to go buy bottled water, and she would go into the parking lot and pour the bottled water out and then go recycle the thing so she can go get drugs? Did you guys see that? Because I guess the drug guy didn't want to accept food stamps and she didn't have cash. So she would take the food stamps and buy bottles of water, plastic bottles, pour out the liquid, not consume it, and then take the plastic to recycle it so now she can have her drug money. And then people are going to say, well, Choosta, that doesn't have anything to do with junk food. Well, that does have something to do with restrictions that we're putting on people who are getting assistance. It has everything to do with that. Ebony says, I pay taxes and IDGAF what those people buy with their stamps as long as they eat. Super elitist of y'all to sit on your high horse and think you should govern what other people eat. It's weird AF. Tax these billionaires and we wouldn't have the worry about this. I don't even understand how that makes sense. I don't even understand in what world that's even a possibility. What does taxing billionaires have to do with poor people and people who don't make the best decisions for themselves? What does that have to do with anything? Oh, because deep down you're actually a Marxist and you want people who worked and sacrificed to pay for other people's neglect and mistakes. That's what you want. More than likely, you're a single mother. Or you're a woman who has multiple children from multiple men, and you want another man to come and take care of those children when you won't even give him children. That's the type of vibes I'm getting from you. So Debbie says no. Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen. Debbie says no. You give someone food stamps, it's theirs. Stop trying to control everything. There are so many who work and get food stamps. Their tax dollars pay it as well. What does that have to do? So what are we talking about, people who work and get food stamps? What does that have to do with you shouldn't buy junk food for your children, or you should make healthy decisions for your children? What does that have to do with anything? Kathy says, people gonna eat what the hell they want. Eat rather it's food stamps or not, and y'all just mad because y'all don't get y'all don't get none in me either. No, that's not true. What a lot of people are upset about is not the fact that we don't get food stamps. A lot of people are upset that because so here's the thing, and there's a lot of to unpack about that. So listen, you have a few types of people in the world, ladies and gentlemen, but you have some type of people that even though they have the money to do it for themselves and they don't need it, they will still accept it, even though they don't need it. And then you have a group of people that say, hey, no, I don't need it right now. I am good. Thank you for that. But give it to somebody who needs it, or hopefully I could get that favor when I do need it. Right. So there are some people who say, hey, I'm good. I don't need government assistance in getting food. I don't need government assistance in helping out my business. I don't need government assistance in these certain capacities. But then you have people who actually could do it, but they would rather milk and extrapolate from the system when they actually don't need it. And this is where Doge comes into play, because we have a lot of people who are wasting stuff even though they don't need it. And that's where the waste of government funds comes into play. Because like she said, you're just mad that y'all don't get none. No, a lot of people aren't mad that they don't get any, but you know what they are mad at? They are mad at the people who do get it. There is no oversight and there is no governance as to how they get to use it. So now you're taking my money, because I don't get to say how much money you take from my check. And the money you take from my check, you give it to people and then don't tell them to have no responsibility, no agency about how they utilize and deal with the money. So now we're just letting people escape from all types of accountability. Listen, I think if a kid's mom is on food stamps, she should be able to buy the kid a birthday cake and a soda for a little birthday party on me, my tax dollars. Now, you know what, Gabby, I could kind of agree with that sentiment, but here's the thing. Getting a soda, sometimes a birthday cake is once in a year. So I would agree with that sentiment, but that's not what we're talking about. We're not talking about a once in a year, a once in a sometime, for instance. We're talking about people who primarily buy junk, who primarily buy processed foods, who actually don't buy anything that is healthy for their children. That's what we're talking about. People who will spend $300 to $400 and their cart is filled up of things that are empty calories. 80 to 90% of what they have and what they're feeding their children is full of empty calories. That's what we're talking about. So in the instance of a birthday cake or in the instance of a sometimes, I would agree with that, but that's not what we're talking about. Catrici says, honey, if it wasn't for food stamps, these snack companies would have been out of business. I honestly don't agree with that, but I'm glad you think that more poor people who beg for money or have to get money is the contributing factor for a major industry or a subset of a group or a company. I'm glad you think that. People who don't have enough money to afford things and have to depend on people who give them things, that's the reason why an industry is thriving and surviving. Ladies and gentlemen, do you see this type of responses that women get? Women say the stupidest shit ever. Seriously. And then they get mad when you say women are dumb. When we say women are stupid, people say you're chauvinistic. Oh, that's toxic masculinity. That's this, that's that. No, ladies and gentlemen, it's the truth. And I'm not saying every woman's dumb, but what I am saying is the majority of women are stupid. That is what I'm saying. And if you don't agree with that, then it's two things. Either one, you are a woman, or two, you were probably raised by a single woman, and therefore you don't want to critique women. I know people that will not say bad things about women because they have a mother or I have a single mom. I did another segment, ladies and gentlemen, where it was like a pop the balloon challenge where the gentleman was upset at the guest. The host of the Pop the Balloon show, was upset because the contestant referred to the girl as a bitch. And in his reference as a bitch, he said, I get badder bitches than you. You're not a bad bitch. And the girl said, you don't get bitches. I don't think you get any bitches. And that was the dialogue that they were having. Excuse my vernacular, but I just want you guys to understand the conversation and the context in which it was applied. And the host tells the guy, hold on, don't call her a bitch. He says, well, why not? He says, well, I have a mother and a sister. And the contestant says, they're probably bitches too. That's what he said. Now, I understand what you guys are thinking. That's more than likely. That's fighting words, right? More than likely, the contestant was ready, or the host was ready to fight with the contestant. I'll tell you this. The host was ready to fight with the contestant, but not because he referred to his mother and his sister as a bitch. He said, you're referring to her as a bitch, and I don't like that. That's mad disrespectful. After he just said, maybe your mother and sister are bitches too, ladies and gentlemen. That's the truth of the matter. And this is why I tell you, women say stupid things, and then men who were raised by single women say even dumber things. So he just told a man, don't call her or refer to her as a bitch because my mother and sister are women. And he said they're probably bitches too. He didn't get upset at that, but he still stood on the general principle of not calling the original woman a bitch. Even though I just referred to your mother and sister as a bitch, and you don't want me to refer to this woman as a bitch because you have a mother and sister, and I refer to them as bitches, okay, I guess I'm making too much logic for you guys. We have a guy here, ladies and gentlemen. I guess he tried to tag somebody, and he says, oh yeah, the poster of this. And he says, Caesar, you don't think that as a kid. You didn't think that as a kid. You went to the store with those old food stamps looking for a quarter water and a snack cake. So again, this, ladies and gentlemen, this is a man who was raised by a single woman, or his father clearly didn't wear the pants in the family. And the reason why I can tell you that is because, again, I can go to the original post and we'll read the original post. And the reason why I'm saying this is because you're right. As a kid, you're right. As a kid, I did not think this. You're right. As an immature child who was not a man, who was not a provider, who was not tasked with the duties and the responsibilities of caring for a wife and children, who did not have those obligations. You are correct. Whose neofrontex was not fully developed yet, prefrontal lobe before 25, that person, you are right, did not know the correct shit. You're right. And now you want to tell me, because now I am a provider, now I am tasked with the responsibilities of making the best decisions for another life. Now you're going to tell me before I knew anything, I didn't think what I thought now. That's what you're going to tell me. That's what you're going to tell me. So now as a father, I know children should eat their vegetables and eat their fruits. I know that now as a father, and you're going to say, well, when you was 14, you didn't think that. You like to eat Snickers every day. What the fuck does that have to do with me being a father now? Ladies and gentlemen, I get upset. I do, ladies and gentlemen. I get triggered. I really do. Because people are stupid. And these are the people that we have to live with in society. These are our neighbors. These are the people that potentially we will procreate with. These are the people who potentially serve us our food. These are the people who potentially service jobs for us and fix your HVAC and climb up on your roof. These are the same people, ladies and gentlemen. And now you ask me, why do I get upset? Because the same people who don't have logic and want to make excuses and reasonings. What's the difference between a reason and an excuse? I did a segment on that, ladies and gentlemen. Do you know it garnered over 2,000 live participants? But in today's society, we use excuses and reason synonymous. When I was a kid, my teacher said, stop making excuses. Do you remember that? But when I said, well, that's my reason, they never asked me to bring a doctor's reason. They said, do you have a doctor's excuse? So now I don't know which one is which. We're going to keep reading, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to make this longer. I just want you guys to see what people in real time actually say to different things. I want you to see. And we're going to get to a point, ladies and gentlemen, we really are, where in society, we're going to just have to tell women who and what they really are. You're not versed to make the decisions. You don't know what the hell you're talking about. I'm sorry. I am sorry. But no, you know what you need to do? You need to sit down and shut up. Matter of fact, I'm just going to say it for the sake of argument. Just go make me a sandwich. That's it, because I'll be hungry after this. You remember back in the day, we don't do this no more, ladies and gentlemen, but when I was a kid, we had at Thanksgiving and Christmas and for festivals, we had the adult table and we had the children's table. And some adults were not allowed to sit at the adults' table. And now when I look back at it, I understand why the regular adults did not let certain adults sit at the table with them. They were telling them you were unqualified. We didn't take you serious as an adult, so we don't allow you to sit with the adults. You can go sit with the children. And every now and then, you could get some kids who could actually sit at the table with the adults. Every now and again. But that's a whole nother story. I tell you guys, it's what did I say? It's here, it's there, it's somewhere. It's either on X or it's on Rumble. I butchered that, but you guys got the gist of it. I'm going to read a couple of these and then we're going to end this because I don't have an SD card and I'm not going to ask you guys for monetary support. But if you are still listening to this, make sure you hit the like, subscribe, and share button. More than anything, I need you to share this content with friends, family, anybody you think the content is relevant to. Even if you don't agree, you can share it and say, listen to this stupid person here. It doesn't matter. I just need you to share it. It just helps out the algorithm. Saria says, and I probably pronounced that wrong. She says, Sierra, it's a weird way to spell it, but okay. Cierra. That's Sierra, but okay. She more than likely she like when you see people's names and the way they spell it, then you realize what it says. You're like, okay, I know you're black, right? Like I don't have to see you. I just know you're black. But I know your mother is more than likely a little bougie. That's why she named you Sierra, but spelled it kind of funky. So like she's a little bit ghetto, but not really. But okay, we'll just read your comment anyway, Sierra. Hell, they won't give most of us food stamps anyway, so who cares? Do you need it? That's my question to that. Do you need it? So I think if you actually needed food stamps, I think you actually could get it. But do you need it or do you just think you need it? Okay, let's continue. So we got another guy in here. Steve says, now, if we could just see the common sense in banning alcohol commercials. Hey, you know what? See, now, do you guys see what happens when a man with some common sense comes in here? Like, he agrees. Now, if we could just see the common sense in banning alcohol commercials. And we did ban alcohol commercials. And do you understand the reason why we did that, ladies and gentlemen? Do you understand? And people can say, well, alcoholism is on the rise, Choosta. It did no point. No, it actually did a point, because even though alcoholism could be on the rise, and that's just because there are more people in the world compared to when there used to be. But did you know juvenile delinquency and alcoholism in juveniles has actually lowered? Did you know that? So Google that fact. Okay. That's what I tell people. Like, people always want to misconstrue terms and different things, but it's like, if you actually knew the truth, you would understand, right? Fred says, excuse me, hey, for the people living in the hood, that's all they got, chips and Coca-Cola. I mean, a regular grocery store can be miles away. Okay, what is miles? Because you know what? I think the average American should be able to walk 3 or 4 miles. Like, you should just be like used to doing that. Like, a 3 or 4 mile walk shouldn't be a big deal to you. You should be like, yeah, I'll be there in a few minutes. Like, I'll walk a couple miles. That shouldn't be a big deal. But in today's society, walking a block is a big deal for a lot of people. Most people don't want to walk. Look, we used to race, right? A quarter mile is like a little bit under 420 feet. You have most people who will not walk a quarter mile. And think of this, ladies and gentlemen. How do you go through 20, 30 years of your life and you've never walked over a quarter mile at a time? And then we wonder why obesity is at a rampage. Why? When I was a kid, listen, ladies and gentlemen, I tell people I was born in the 70s, but I was really born in 81. But I just tell people I was born in the 70s because most of my cousins that were older than me were born in the 70s. So even though I was born in the early 80s, I hung out with the 70s kids and I did what the 70s kids did. But anyway, I tell you, it's here. It's neither here nor there. It is somewhere. More than likely, it's on X. It's probably on Rumble. Hopefully, you're subscribed. But listen, when we were kids, ladies and gentlemen, you did not have juvenile diabetes. There was not a proliferation of, now you did have fat kids. It wasn't a lot of them. It wasn't a lot, but you didn't have a whole bunch of fat kids with diabetes. To hear of, in 86, to hear of a child that had diabetes, you knew he was like, his parents was like 60 years old. Like, you had old people diseases because your parents was old. Like, why the hell you got diabetes? You 13. It didn't make sense. But do you know, in today's society, you have more juveniles and adolescents with diabetes than you actually have senior citizens? Do you know you have more people under the age of 40 with high blood pressure and hypertension than you do senior citizens? And going back to my original point, it's not because it's more of the young people. It's not because it's more of them. The population of the baby boomers is still quite significant compared to the Gen Zs and the millennials and et cetera, et cetera. So when you compare a larger number of people to a smaller number of people, how is it higher percentage? And this is why per capita is always important, right? So how is it that you have more young people with juvenile diabetes, even though there are still more old people? How is it you have more middle-aged people with high blood pressure, hypertension than you do senior citizens when there are more senior citizens? How is that? How is it that you have 100 people over here and 50 people over here, and you mean to tell me 50 people did more than what the 100 people did? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to just read one more. We're going to actually, you know what? We just hit we're past the 30-minute mark, ladies and gentlemen. But I was actually trying, let me see. Hopefully I was going to get a woman to make a good comment. Hopefully. I don't know who JNT is. Well, maybe if they would make healthier, if they would make healthier food cheaper, like fruits and vegetables, people would get more of that. I disagree with that. Terry Atkins says, when I was young, we didn't have parties because we couldn't afford them, and that was okay because mom made a cake and told me she loved me. Um, I think I get what she's trying to say. What she's trying to say is that, you know what, we were poor and we were on a budget. Things were tight, so we didn't get the unnecessary things. Hopefully, that's what she's trying to say. And even if you don't buy your kids junk food and the cakes and the snacks, they'll still know that you love them. I think that's what she's trying to say. Hopefully so. Kimberly Duran says, or maybe parents should make better decisions for their kids' health. Parents need to be accountable, not government regulations. Maybe something like free mandatory health classes that come. Like, she was almost there. It was like you were right there. You was like, I want to go see the forest, but it's like the trees are just in the way. I'm coming to see the forest, but it's just so many trees, so let me cut them down. Maybe something like free mandatory health classes that come to them, or cooking classes where they show parents how to cook healthy on a budget. It's doable. We have 5 kids, so we're always on a budget and we are health conscious. But not everyone knows how to be, or even why certain things are bad for you. I'm still learning every day. The government needs to be more progressive, not more controlling. I know programs are available, but not always accessible. Maybe food stamps should cover meal kits. Sometimes parents need the support they weren't taught by their parents. End the cycle and let's do better for ourselves. My oldest was in a charter school and they held a cooking class once a week for a few months and it was great. We still have the cookbook and we learned so much. IDK, I'm just rambling. You know what? She was just rambling, and I'm actually going to love that. I'm actually, because that sentiment right there, and I think that's a good sentiment, because I think her heart was in the right place, even though, you know, she wanted to come see the forest and the trees were in the way. So she started cutting down trees, wondering, you know, where the forest went, you know. But I tell you, neither here nor there, it's somewhere. It's probably on X, or more than likely it's on Rumble. Just be subscribed. But listen, the reason why I love the comment, for a few different things, because she put emphasis on learning, right? And I don't agree with everything she said in here. I don't think the government should be so controlling. I don't. But I do think that when people don't know and people don't have the means, the government does need to mandate and control certain things. I do believe that. And people, oh, Choosta, how do you know? So listen, if you're in a program that is subsidized, then there should be rules and regulations in that program. You shouldn't be able to pick and choose what you want to do in a subsidized program, especially when it comes from the taxpayers. Now, if but all the money the government get, like, the government doesn't make too much money on its own the government gets a substantial amount of money from taxpayers. It does some stuff on its own, but that doesn't really make money, like, per se. You guys got to understand that like, balances that, like, that's buoyancy. So that either they do it because there's a deficit to come back to zero, or they do certain things to stay at zero. But generally speaking, to create a surplus, they just tax us. That's usually how a surplus is created in the United States government, or they just print money, right? They say, oh, there's only so much in circulation. Let's just make some more. And now there's more in circulation. So we got more money now. That's kind of how that works. But listen, I agree with a lot of what she was saying here. Parents do need to make healthier decisions, and a lot of people don't know why certain things are healthy and bad. And I do think that if some people, not all, and I don't even know if it would be the majority, but I do believe in my heart of hearts that if people were actually educated on the ramifications of the choices that they were making, I do believe that they would make better choices from an informed position. So listen, ladies and gentlemen, just like she said, I'm rambling, and you guys know I do that all the time. I ramble, right? But listen, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do your friends and family a favor. And if you haven't hit the like button, the share button, or subscribe button, do that now. Please share this content with friends, family, anybody that you think the content is relevant to. Remember, local elections are more important than national elections, but dollars are stronger than votes. They won't stop until we stop them. Liberation comes at a cost. Who's willing to pay for it? We're past the 30-minute mark, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully I was going to get a woman to make a good comment. Hopefully. JNT is, well, maybe if they would make healthier food cheaper, like fruits and vegetables, people would get more of that. I disagree with that. Terry Atkins says, when I was young, didn't have parties because we couldn't afford them. And that was okay because mom made a cake and told me she loved me. I think I get what she's trying to say, and we were on a budget, so we didn't get the unnecessary things. Hopefully, that's what she's trying to say. Kimberly Duran says, or maybe parents should make better decisions for their kids' health. Parents need to be accountable, not government regulations. Maybe something like free mandatory health classes that come, like she was almost there. It was like you were right there. You was like, I want to go see the forest, but it's like the trees are just in the way. I'm coming to see the forest, but it's just so many trees, so let me cut them down. Maybe something like free mandatory health classes that come to them, or cooking classes where they show parents how to cook healthy on a budget. It's doable. We have 5 kids, so we're always on a budget and we are health conscious. But not everyone knows how to be or even why certain things are bad for you. I'm still learning every day. The government needs to be more progressive, not more controlling. I know programs are available, but not always accessible. Maybe food stamps should cover meal kits. Sometimes parents need the support they weren't taught by their parents. End the cycle and let's do better for ourselves. My oldest was in a charter school and they held a cooking class once a week for a few months and it was great. We still have the cookbook and we learned so much. IDK, I'm just rambling. You know what? She was just rambling and I'm actually going to love that. I think her heart was in the right place, even though, she wanted to come see the forest and the trees were in the way. So she started cutting down trees, wondering, where the forest went, But I tell you, neither here nor there, it's somewhere. It's probably on X, or more than likely it's on Rumble. Just be subscribed. But listen, the reason why I love the comment, emphasis on learning. I don't agree with everything she said in here. I don't think the government should be so controlling. I do think that when people don't know and people don't have the means, the government does need to mandate and control certain things. I do believe that. And people, Choosta, how do you know? So listen, if you're in a program that is subsidized, then there should be rules and regulations in a subsidized program, especially when it comes from the taxpayers. But generally speaking, to create a surplus, they just tax us, or they just print money. Right? But listen, I agree with a lot of what she was saying here. Parents do need to make healthier decisions, and a lot of people don't know why certain things are healthy and bad. I do believe in my heart of hearts that if people were actually educated on the ramifications of the choices that they were making, I do believe that they would make better choices from an informed position. Just like she said, I'm rambling, and you guys know I do that all the time. I ramble, right? But listen, do me a favor, do yourself a favor, do your friends and family a favor. And if you haven't hit the like button, the share button, or subscribe button, do that now. Please share this content with friends, family, anybody that you think the content is relevant to. Remember, local elections are more important than national elections, but dollars are stronger than votes. They won't stop until we stop them. Liberation comes at a cost. Who's willing to pay for it?
I'm from outer space, I got Milky Way for blood, evolution in my veins. I'm gone, I've been far away, I'm illuminated now, make a move, start the waves, I've been dreaming